This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Do you know that demon beast? Tiandang asked. Yes, Yunxiao nodded and said, it's something called a little green demon, but it's only a 6th tier one. It can only harm cultivators below the rank of a martial emperor. Only the kings of the minor demons can reach the 7th rank. It's not an 8th rank item. Oh. Tiandang looked at the Chamber of Commerce and said, this is the checkpoint you set up, aren't you afraid of being laughed at? What does it have to do with us? Gao Lin snorted coldly. If you have the ability, just walk over. I don't want to talk to people like you. Tiandang took the lead and walked forward. Everyone's eyes were fixed on him. As soon as he walked between the two mountains, the little green demons on the mountains started to attack him. Shadows filled the sky, and the sound of air breaking was constantly heard. Tiandang slightly opened his domain, and all the little green monsters bounced back after hitting the wall around him. They couldn't hurt him at all. Humph, a bunch of trash. He snorted coldly and released a mist from his body. The little green demons that rushed into the mist fell down one after another as if they were poisoned. As if they had a spirit that didn't fear death, they continued to charge forward even as they watched their companions die. Soon, almost all of them died, falling all over the ground. It's over? Everyone was full of doubts. Yunxiao suddenly had an idea. Not good, look below your feet. Tiandang lowered his head and saw the dead little green demons melting on the ground, gradually seeping into the earth. The soil under Tiandang's feet started to turn muddy, and his feet sank into the soil. The earth turned into a swamp. Yunxiao had experienced the same scene outside the demon land, but it was just a restrictive array cast by Sheng. At this moment, it had truly become a quagmire. Everyone was shocked and hurriedly retreated. Soon, a terrifying scene appeared in front of them. The ground in the entire valley began to corrode and wither. The original green space was completely turned into mud, spreading over a large area, no less than 100 meters. The strong corrosive gas emitted by the mud even frightened the warriors. Just smelling it made them feel like their yuan qi was being corroded, forcing all the warriors to retreat into the valley. Tiandang, on the other hand, was standing in the air. His domain had formed a defense to resist the corrosive qi. His face had turned serious. He stepped forward in the air, and with every step, he would shake off a large amount of corrosive air. It seemed that he was struggling with every step. Everyone was extremely shocked. If a 9-stars Martial Supreme was having such a hard time, then they could forget about passing through. Tiandang was about to reach the other side of the river when a huge muddy hand suddenly rose from the swamp. It was more than 10 meters wide, and it stretched out its 5 fingers in the air to grab Tiandang. In an instant, he was completely caught in the hand and clenched into a fist. Magnet. Everyone was so scared that they broke out in cold sweat and retreated. Even a 9-stars Martial Venerable was caught. Bang. The huge Madras seal suddenly exploded, and mud fell from the sky. Tiandang's body was surrounded by the mist, and he was flying forward with a shocked expression on his face. The huge muddy fist was blown away, but it quickly condensed again and quickly chased after him. Unfortunately, it was already too weak, and Tiandang successfully crossed to the other side. The arm swam on the shore for a while before slowly sinking into the mud. It was calm again, and only the strong corrosive gas continued to spread. However, everyone's hair stood on end, and no one dared to take a step forward. Sect Master Tan's strength is indeed extraordinary. You didn't get eaten. Everyone from the Chamber of Commerce, come with me. Gao Lin laughed. He leaped up and flew to the other side of the swamp. He was not attacked by the corrosive power, which stunned everyone. Not only Gao Lin, but the warriors of the Chamber of Commerce also rose into the air and flew over easily, turning their heads back from time to time with sneers on their faces. These old fogies, there must be some kind of aura on their bodies that the monster beasts in the swamp can't detect or are afraid of. Sun Jiming was shocked and furious, but he was helpless. The other party had come prepared, while he and his people had come blindly. If that's the case. Xiao Minghui pondered for a moment. Then, his figure suddenly flashed and rushed into the sky. He flew into the crowd of warriors of the Chamber of Commerce and also flew past them without being attacked.
Ah!
The cultivators behind him were all dumbfounded, and all of them quickly reacted, rushing to chase after the last few Chamber of Commerce cultivators. The cultivators of the Chamber of Commerce were shocked and immediately increased their speed to the maximum, running away at top speed. Yunxiao and Hanxian were not willing to fall behind, and they also squeezed into the crowd. Gao Lin, who had reached the other side of the river, suddenly changed his expression. Without thinking, he took out something and threw it into the mud. He didn't see what it was, but it sank. Soon, a boiling sound could be heard. A vast and overbearing demonic power immediately spread out from the mud. Tan Dichuan's pupils shrank, and he shouted angrily, "Old man, what did you throw?" Gao Lin played dumb and said indifferently, "Did I? Oh, I just threw away some of my unwanted items." What a strong demonic power.
Oh no.
They are in danger. Sun Jiming was shocked. He saw a head gradually emerge from the mud. It looked like a mud slope with mud rolling on it and thick smoke billowing. After its head was exposed, its eye sockets were empty. It opened its mouth and spat out a corrosive gas towards the martial artists. Not good. Quickly run. Over 100 people in the air were immediately thrown into chaos. Many of them were hit by the corrosive gas and fell directly. There were some who were lucky enough to escape, but they suddenly discovered that a muddy hand was coming down from all directions in front of them. It was like swatting flies, and they were directly hit into the mud, leaving no bones behind. Magnet. Tan Dijuan was terrified. He didn't know how many of them would survive if this continued. All martial venerables, attack together with me and protect our disciples. He shouted. He was the first to rush back to the sky above the mud and dispersed the mist. A gray tunnel immediately appeared and he shouted, "Local sects, come over here." When the disciples of the Big Dipper sect saw this, they were overjoyed and rushed toward the misty bridge. Sun Jiming and a few other revered martial artists also flew into the mud at the same time and began to work together to suppress the demonic beast. The number of deaths was reduced in an instant. Everyone was pleasantly surprised as they rushed towards the direction of the fog. Bang! Suddenly, a warrior's chest exploded and he fell into the mud, which shocked everyone. It was Tan Dijuan. He said in a cold voice, "This place is only open for the disciples of the local sects to pass through. As for the rest of you, you can only pray for yourself. If you continue to squeeze in, you will end up like that scum just now." This immediately caused many cultivators to leave in panic, running towards the other side of the river. Among the itinerant martial artists, a sense of sorrow surged in the hearts of everyone. Not good, I can't suppress it anymore. Quickly retreat. Xiao Minghui shouted. After the demonic beast in the mud was pushed into the mud by them, it suddenly burst out. A large amount of mud was constantly shot out from the bottom, and a large number of warriors were hit. The lucky ones were injured, while the unlucky ones fell down and died. However, those who died were all itinerant martial artists. The local forces hurriedly retreated to the other side under the protection of several martial honors. Mei Dong was among them. She looked anxiously at Yunxiao behind her and cried out desperately, "Young Master Yun, come here. Junior sister, don't bother about him. We can't even escape on our own." A disciple of the Big Dipper sect said anxiously as he pushed forward. Under the joint protection of several martial venerables, the only safe place was the misty passage. "Hanxian, you go first." Yunxiao grabbed Hanxian and threw her into the tunnel, ignoring her resistance. "Humph, the passage of our sect is only enough for the people of our sect to use. Didn't the two of you hear Sect Master Tan's words?" Shinduo suddenly blocked Hanxuan's path and lightly slapped out his palm. He grinned hideously and shouted, "I'll spare your life this time. If there's a next time, you'll end up like that person." The wind from his palm was strong and fierce, but it didn't hurt Han Xian. It only shook her away and she fell into the mud in the distance. Han Xian was shocked, and she hurriedly stabilized her body in the air before flying directly to the other side. But suddenly, a huge hand swam over from the distance and grabbed at her. Han Xuan's face turned pale with fear. She finally understood why Tiandijuan couldn't escape from the palm. Under the 5 fingers, there was an extremely strong earth rhythm, which suppressed her and made her unable to move. She could only watch the palm fall with despair and helplessness in her heart. Zhendiyo, you deserve to die. Yunxiao roared as he suddenly released his mental power from between his eyebrows. The air twisted, and he instantly teleported to Han Xuan's side and wrapped his arm around her waist. After that, the divine fire of the phoenix between his brows shot out in a line and broke the giant hand. He then took Han Xian and soared into the sky, striding forward. Having escaped death, Han Xian had an indescribable feeling in her heart. When Yunxiao held her thin waist and pressed her against his body, she felt weak all over, but she also felt extremely safe. The corrosive air and all kinds of dangers in the sky could not hurt her. Bang! 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 Suddenly, the mud below Yunxiao broke open, and 7 or 8 giant hands emerged, rushing up at the same time with bared fangs and brandishing claws, trying to grab the 2 men. Yunxiao was shocked, not understanding why the mud monster had its eyes on him. There were only 3 or 4 hands where those martial honors were, but they had actually used 8 hands to deal with him. He didn't have time to think about it. He formed a sword seal with one hand and shouted, Han Xian, you go first. Then, a ray of sword light gushed out from between his eyebrows. It was the Northern Heaven Cold Star Sword. It danced in the air under his hand seals, ready to be used. Yunxiao flicked his hand and immediately threw Han Xian onto the sword. Sword technique demon slaying. He shouted, and a demonic dragon emerged from the Northern Heaven Cold Star Sword. It let out a powerful cry, broke open a space passage, and flew to the other side. Han Xian stepped on the Northern Heaven Frigid Star Sword, and an icy chill pierced through her feet. Her entire body was freezing, and no matter how much vital qi she used, she couldn't get rid of it. In an instant, she felt her limbs getting frostbitten. But, what made her heart turn even colder was that when she looked back, she saw Yunxiao being grabbed by a big hand and clenched into a fist after he had used the sword technique. No. She let out a sorrowful cry and used her sword technique to kill demons. She directly broke through the corrosive air around her and brought her to the other side safely. Han Xuan's body turned cold the moment she landed, and she fell to the ground. The Northern Heaven Cold Star Sword was still shining with a cold light, stuck in the ground. Young Master Yun. Mei Dong also cried out at the same time. When she saw Yunxiao being grabbed by a big hand, her legs gave way, and she almost fell down the misty passage. Sheng Guanyuan, who was beside her, quickly supported her, and in a few flashes, they landed on the opposite land. At this moment, a large number of local forces of warriors had arrived safely through the smog tunnel. The itinerant cultivators who had made it through also took a breath and flew over while the muddle-headed monster was madly attacking Yunxiao. They were all covered in cold sweat and felt a lingering fear. They stared at the several big hands in the mud. If Yunxiao had not suddenly attracted the muddling monster to burst out and all of them swam away, they would not have escaped so easily. Tiandijuan's eyes burned with anger. He glared at Zhendiyo and said, if he dies, you'll be punished. Zhendiyo furrowed his brows and said angrily, why? Why should I be punished if he dies? You want to kill Emir Wuzong, don't you? Tiandijuan said coldly, that was in the past. Don't forget that he still has the lightning transformation divine skill. You've seen its power just now. If you throw away the lightning transformation divine art, will senior brother let you go? Zhendiyo's expression changed drastically, becoming extremely ugly. Mei Dong stumbled over to Tiandijuan, knelt down, and cried, Lord Vice Sect Leader, I beg you, please save young Master Yun. Tiandijuan's face was gloomy, and he didn't say anything. Sun Jiming was also very worried. Of course, he was also worried that the lightning transformation divine skill would disappear. He said, Sect Master Tan, you were also caught by that big hand just now. I wonder what's the hope of you getting out. Tandijuan looked at the big hand that was holding Yunxiao, and his face darkened. It's very difficult. The hand contained the power of the earth, which could suppress the space and make you unable to move. The corrosive power was also very powerful, even stronger than the mist that I cultivated. If an ordinary grandmaster was caught, he would definitely die. However, I don't know about him. I hope he doesn't die. Mei Dong cried even more sorrowfully and prayed with all her might. Han Xuan's face was also pale. Although her body was cold and the cold air entered her body, a deeper chill came from the bottom of her heart, which was even colder than the body. Gao Lin's side was also watching nervously. On the contrary, they hoped that Yunxiao would die here. However, they were quickly disappointed. Suddenly, a beam of white light shot out from the back of the hand that was holding Yunxiao. It was as pure as snow, as if it had not been contaminated by the mortal world. Then, there was 1, 2, and 3 more streaks of mist. The light of Yunxiao's divine body swept away the foul air, and then a roar of a demon beast came out of his palm, but it was not the mud skippers. A bronze figure was growing bigger and bigger, pushing the muddled beast's palm open. It was the gourd little King Kong. It roared and grew bigger, then punched the palm. Bang! The muddy demonic beast's palm was completely smashed by the gourd little King Kong's punch, turning into big pieces of mud and falling down. When the calabash warrior bent down, Yunxiao was standing on his back. His skin was emitting a faint golden light that flickered, and his eyes were filled with surprise. Phew! As expected, this kid didn't die. Tandijuan heaved a heavy sigh of relief, but his eyes were filled with more fear. At that moment, the golden light that was shining on Yunxiao's body made him feel a chill. It seemed to be an extremely powerful cultivation technique. This brat has so many fucking trump cards. Tandijuan cursed under his breath. His eyes twitched as he watched the gourd little King Kong break the arms one by one. This gourd little King Kong had appeared once at the auction and forced Gao Lin to retreat with a punch. Everyone thought that it was a puppet, just like a profound level weapon, unafraid of death, so no one thought much about it. However, at this moment, he was stunned. Was this really a puppet? It was so intelligent that it knew how to attack automatically even without anyone controlling it. Moreover, it kept punching. What else could it be if not the Vajra punch? Even if it was a puppet, was there a puppet that could suppress the violent beating of an 8th-rank demonic beast? Tandijuan wasn't the only one. Everyone else was dumbfounded. Even Mei Dong, who had been crying like a pear blossom bathed in rain, forgot to wipe her tears. She stared at the strange scene in a daze. The gourd little King Kong's huge body stood in the air above the swamp. As long as a big hand condensed and rushed up, he would run over and punch it. The muddy demon beast that had troubled and frightened everyone looked like a child at this moment. It had been beaten until it had no temper. Gradually, the number of hands condensed decreased. Suddenly, a stream of mud shot up from below and pointed directly at Yunxiao. It seemed that the demon beast had intelligence and understood that this man was the real master. Frowning slightly, Yunxiao took a slight step forward and stopped the gourd little King Kong, who was rushing over, and said, "I'll try it myself." He raised his right hand, and a golden light flickered on his fist. There seemed to be a strange power surging on his fist, and he punched toward the mud. Bang! It was like an iron hammer hitting tofu. The mud exploded and turned into countless pieces of mud that fell down. Magnet. This strike made everyone's heart tremble with fear. That muddy attack, not to mention its powerful corrosiveness, was an attack from an 8th-rank demonic beast, but it was destroyed by a single punch. Yunxiao was also taken aback by the power of his punch. He stood in the sky in a daze as he looked at the golden light all over his body and asked suspiciously, "Is this the imperishable golden body? Why do I feel like I'm lacking something?" "You're indeed far from Ao Chungkong's," the demon dragon said. "Is it because your cultivation base is not high enough?" Yunxiao shook his head and said, "Cultivation and physical strength are two completely different things. The power of this imperishable golden body is at most comparable to that of a martial supreme. It is completely different from Ao Chungkong's destructive power. The tyrant body tempering technique that I know of has already reached its limit, so there should be a lower part of it. The lower part of the cultivation technique? Then what should we do? The demon dragon asked. You can't possibly ask Ao Chongkong for it, right? 9 out of 10 times, you'll be smacked to death. Forget it, Yunxiao said. It's good that you don't have the lower part of the cultivation technique. God knows how many primordial stones it would take to fill up my current body. If I really cultivate the inextinguishable golden body to Ao Chungkong's level, I'm afraid I'll never be able to recover to the peak of the 9 heavens realm in this lifetime. Han Xian also recovered from the cold and hurriedly called out, Young Master Yun, come here. She was afraid of another variable. No hurry, Yunxiao said with a smile. I can use this demon beast as a practice. Everyone was shivering, including Tan Dijuan and Gao Lin, whose faces were all pale. This kind of demonic beast that everyone was afraid of and did their best to escape, he actually said that he wanted to use it to practice. If the person in front of him was a martial sovereign of the 9 heavens, it would still make sense. However, the person in front of him was a martial grandmaster of the 6 directions realm. Yunxiao's physical body had just stepped into the imperishable golden body, and he needed some time to refine it. He shouted down from the sky, reveal your true body and fight me. If I'm satisfied, I'll let you go, or else you'll die. When everyone heard this, their heads were filled with exclamation marks. They felt as if their brains had a bump and were not working well. With a point of his finger, Yunxiao summoned the breathing earth at his fingertips and pressed it down from the air. The entire mud suddenly boiled, as if a volcano was about to erupt. What's going on? Everyone turned pale with fright. The violent demonic power in the mud surged up. Even when they were standing on the ground, they could feel it and felt that it was extremely terrifying. Roar! Finally, a huge figure rushed out of the swamp. Only the upper half of the body was exposed. It was made of mud and had 12 arms. Its empty eyes looked at the little bit of breathing earth and flickered with a strange divine light. The living earth gave birth to all living things. It was the mother of the earth, the origin of the earth. To any earth-type demonic beast, it had an irresistible temptation. After the muddy demon beast revealed its true face, it roared and rushed at Yunxiao, all 12 hands reaching out to grab him. Today, I'm going to try and see if Ao Chungkong's inextinguishable golden body is useful or not. Yunxiao laughed proudly as he clenched his fist and put away the earth. Then, he flew toward the demon beast and clenched his fist in the air, which transformed into a dazzling golden shadow that looked like the sun, shining in all directions. Imperishable golden body, motionless king fist. Boom boom boom. The golden fist, which was like a rotating sun, pierced through the mud skipper beast's body. A huge golden light exploded and illuminated the area. Like a golden god of war, Yunxiao's eyes flickered with starlight as he muttered to himself, it's almost time. With a point of his finger, the gourd little King Kong was absorbed into his glabella. He walked out of the golden light and landed on the ground. The upper body of the mud monster behind him was directly blown to pieces. It roared madly in the mud, its voice filled with anger and extreme unwillingness. Although it was an 8th-tier demon beast, it had consumed a lot of its strength under the joint suppression of Sun Jiming and the others, and then it was suppressed by the calabash little King Kong, so it had long lost control of its strength. Now that it was being used as a target for Yunxiao to practice, it was so angry that it kept roaring, but there was nothing it could do. After Yunxiao landed on the ground, some of the warriors on the shore immediately scattered, as if they had seen something more terrifying than the muddled beast. They did not dare to approach him, and they looked at him from a distance with deep fear.